Hey guys, and welcome to Saints TV. This is North Melbourne game today. It's game day. We're playing North at Etihad at 4:20. It's the Good Friday match. Bit of pretty high expectations, to be honest, with this one based on last week. I'm expecting a lot of players to be about 15-20% better. They've got that first game in, so hopefully after training this week and that positive vibe around the club after the win last week, that we'll come in and be really confident and go for the win pretty early on. Want a really good first quarter. That's the key to this. Last year we, I think, only won 7 first quarters, so it'd be good to go out and have a really good first quarter today. We did last week and scored 6 goals for, so if we can do that again today, that'll go a long way to just continuing on in the second half and going for a big win, hopefully. Looking for guys like Paddy McCartan, Ben Long, Hunter Clark in his second game to be a bit more comfortable in his AFL environment. And then obviously the usual suspects like Seb Ross, Stephen, and Blake Acres, particularly after his performance last week, to continue on from there. And the big one, Billy Longer, and how he will respond against a very good ruckman in Goldstein. So I'll chat to you after the game. Hopefully we'll be talking about a win. See you then. Alright. I'm back from the game. Not really anything like what I was expecting. We lost by 52 points, so it was 95 North Melbourne. St Kilda 43. That was just so shit. Like that. How can you... Ben Brown scored 6 goals. We kicked 5 for the entire game on a perfect ground. It wasn't waterlogged like North Melbourne dealt with last week. There was no excuse here. We had a full-strength team in. There was literally no excuse. Everyone said, oh, North Melbourne are going to hopefully have heavy legs after such a slog last week. No chance that they didn't show any signs of that. We were shocking. There was no effort at all. I reckon the only 3 players I can say played well was Jimmy Webster at 30 possessions, Blake Acres, who still kicked a great goal and just ran around, was the only player that looked like he could handball and kick without stuffing it up. And the third would have to be Carlisle, kicked a goal. And then our plan B for the game, while he's doing really well in defence and intercepting when North had continued inside 50s, Richard goes and puts him in the forward line. Now, I don't know what happened at half-time, but I could tell that Scott, the coach of North, who everyone criticises, actually seemed to change the way they were playing. They played more direct, they drew us in, and then continually played over the top, which I've told people time and time again, that's what Richo has taught us to do. It's zonal defending. It's not man-on-man. Every good AFL team, I think, plays man-on-man. You look at them all, I think Adelaide plays man-on-man, Richmond plays man-on-man, Geelong plays man-on-man. GWS can do what they want because they've got the skills to back it up. But we play zone, which means that you're not marking a particular player, you're just running off. You're expected to run off your man to go and deal with the next ball, to put pressure and continually push up. So it's like almost like an offside trap in soccer is the best way to explain it. But it's never going to work against good teams. And North were probably 80% better than they were last week. And that meant that they could get over the back. And there were so many easy goals where they gave it to Higgins and he handballed it to Ben Brown walking into goal. I just can't... I said it in my preview that my biggest worry was Ben Brown. I didn't realise he was going to be that much of a worry, that he would score more goals than our entire team. I couldn't spot Billings until the 4th quarter. Gresham, it was just... I'm just really shocked. Like, this is me capturing my raw sort of feedback of the game, and it was just terrible. Like, I was talking to my uncle before I go to the games with, and he was saying that, we seem to have gone backwards, and usually I defend those sort of claims, but I was actually pretty reluctant to do that, and I just told him, I think you're right. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, how many games last year or the previous year did we lose to teams we were really definitely confident that we were going to win against, that we were red-hot favourites against, that were below us on the ladder? Last year we beat those teams. We beat the Carltons, we beat the Collingwoods, we beat the North Melbournes, we beat the Gold Coast, we beat Brisbane's, we beat the Hawks. We beat these teams that were in and around and under us. If we're going into games where we're definitely playing wooden spooner type teams, no offence to North fans out there, but that's what they've been categorised as, and we're categorised as this team that's up and coming, you don't lose these games. But we lost the game, and we lost it easily. Like, Jared Wade, who, even in the North boards on Big Footy, their fans were criticising that they didn't want him to play. He kicked, I think, 2 goals and had 24 possessions and dominated and was #1 ranked player in Supercoach on the ground, I'm pretty sure, outside of Ben Brown. Like, the players that they criticised stood up. Like, none of our players stood up when they needed to. Armitage tried and tried. Billy Longer probably shouldn't play next week against Sam Jacobs. Like, there's a lot of players that shouldn't play next week that I think, Sandringham had a really good performance. Dunstan had 40 and kicked 3 or 4. Mav Weller had 25 and kicked 5. Marshall was positive. Loney kicked 3 or 4. And they won by like 10 goals. So there's a lot of players, unlike last week when they lost and we won, it's out the way around now. We were poor in the AFL and they were very good in the VFL. So I can see, and if Richard doesn't swing the axe, then he better have a good reason for it. Going against Adelaide, it's Saturday night, Etihad. We could have been 2-0 and we're 1-1. In our next couple of games, it's Adelaide and I think it's then Geelong in Geelong and then it's GWS back in Melbourne. It's going to be tough, guys. I'm trying to stay really positive and hope that it's just an aberration. It's just a one-off game, but it's really hard to see that. And the vibe at Etihad was just like, even after the first quarter, then the next quarter, then the third, the game, we actually never took the game on, which I heard in pre-season from a bunch of our players, our star players, that said, yeah, we're going to take the game on more. We want to be more direct. Every time there was a player on in the middle of the ground, and it was Carlisle who was trying to make these runs, he was never rewarded. Geary had it time and time again and often always went backwards or sideways. And I think maybe once or twice David Armitage, decided to cut into the middle and it opened the game up. I think we did that maybe 2 or 3 times. Inside 50 entries were terrible. We must be the best team to defend against because we just bomb and bomb and bomb. And then we go and criticise guys like McCartan who's competing against 10 defenders. So many times he made leads and he was free, and then we took that extra 4 or 5 seconds to kick it to him, and in that time the defenders got back and they punched the ball out of bounds, and then we criticise him for not marking it when he's busted his gut to take marks. He laid 3 or 4 tackles and got a couple of holding the balls, which you never see from him, and I thought that was a good sign of effort. Bruce was missing, but he had to go in the ruck, so it kind of compromised his game, and Membry was just very unlike him to have such a quiet game, and he was dropping so many marks. So Nunes, I could go on. Robertson, everyone was 50 to 60% worse than they were last week. And they weren't even that good last week, and we got away with it. We didn't this week. So I don't know what's going to happen during the week, guys, but I'd love to hear feedback. I'm so frustrated. I wish we were talking about a win, but we're not. And that's, I guess, the reality of the season is we're going to have these ups and downs, but I can't bear to have it round 2, Anyway, guys, leave a comment, leave a like, leave a subscribe. Follow Saints TV on Facebook. It's at Saints TV or /Saints TV. And we'll chat about the Adelaide game during the week and we'll see how we go. But shit performance all up. 52-point loss. We're 1-1 now. We'll probably be out of the 8 at the end of the round. And then we'll play Adelaide next week. So stay tuned for my preview on that. And I'll see you for the next game.